Yes, I think you've taken the time.
Is that a volunteer position?
I think so.
Have fun with that.
Not in it for the money.
If they didn't mention pay, it's volunteer. All right, we'll move on to item number 4. Local agency, 2025 local agency formation commission LAFCO board of director election.
So similar to the last item, the board is being asked to vote for one candidate each term. You may elect to not vote for any candidates for either term or just one or the other term. For term ending in December 2026, there's 3 candidates, Mr. Owen Davis, Mr. Ed Eby, and Ms. Deborah Scott. For the term ending in December 2028, we have Mr. Robert Enns and Naveed. I think we just met him.
Yes.
So if we can discuss the first term, if whether the board wants to vote for one candidate for that term, we can do that, and then we can do the second term.
Okay. Do you have any board comments or questions on the first term? All right, do you have public comment on the first term?
Greg Grewell. As a person who's gone down to the LAFCO board on many occasions and spoke there, they've disappointed me quite a bit because a lot of the different members have other connections with stuff. And the 2 board of supervisors that sat on there that created all of our water problems in the first place were the ones that were not only sitting on the board and voted on their own application when they were the applicants for AB 2453, and then voted on it and wasted $1 million of taxpayer money from the county, and then lost by almost 80% of the people that live over the basin. And a lot of the people, well, I shouldn't say that. A few of the people that are on that board are still on there, and there's some that are wanting to be on there again. And I think it's time for a change for some other people that are looking out on what the position is supposed to do. They're not supposed to hold somebody's hand and walk them through there, which you guys wrote a letter against the EPC Water District. And they're in violation, and the people on that board said, well, somebody will have to sue us even though we knew we did it wrong. And the documentation is there. And so I would expect that anybody that wants to be on that board follows the rules and what reconsideration is. And when they put conditions on people, that those people have to have those conditions met, otherwise they don't go forward. Anyway, those are my comments. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Okay. My personal opinion is that I would vote for Owen Davis to fill the first position.
Are we talking about the 2028 position?
No, through 2026.
Okay, sorry.
The first one.
Okay. I lost.
Any other board members want to?
I would second. I would like to recommend the other candidates.
We got Owen, Ed, Eber, and Deborah Scott.
Which other candidate, director?
The second candidate, not only.
There's 3 candidates.
Oh, okay.
Which other candidate would be?
Ed Eber is a current member.
That's what,
Okay.
I'm going with Owen.
So we have 2 for Mr. Davis.
I feel Mr. Eby has a lot of experience in this.
So we have 2 for Mr. Eby and 2 for Mr. Davis.
No offense on him, but
I can vote for myself, right?
Yeah.
Yes, you can.
Okay. I'm voting for me.
So we have a vote for Mr. Davis by 3-2.
Now we're doing another term.
Thank you.
That's through 2026.
Yeah.
This one's through 2028.
Okay. So for the second term, into 2028, do we have any public comment?
is that okay if I just make it real quick? My name is still Naveed Fardhan, it hasn't changed. Again, thank you. I just want to just bring a couple of items up from my resume just so that you guys know. First of all, with Templeton Community Services District, we are in the same similar situation as your district is. You know, we have jurisdiction over fire, parks and rec, water, wastewater, lighting, and a little bit of drainage. So I'm very familiar with what your district's going through in terms of jurisdiction powers that you need. So I think in that sense I would be a good candidate for a good representative for you on LAFCO. And also want to let you know that I was on planning commission at a city in Central Valley for 6 years. So I'm also familiar with developments, you know, plannings and designs and you know, looking at what works long-term vision, having the long-term vision, and how to create a situation for residents that they will be, you know, able to use the facilities that we plan for many years to come. So I just wanted to mention that again. I'll be fighting hard for you guys, and I ask for your support. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Do we have any other public comment? No.
Murray.
Oh, Murray.
Murray Powell again. Just to say that, you know, you can never have enough help from capitalism. Right?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Powell. Do you have any direction from board members?
I say vote for Navin.
Say what? Vote for Navin? I would agree. Dr. Davis?
I agree, that's the 1 through 28 though, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Dr. Green?
Absolutely.
I concur.
Okay. Unanimous.
Thank you, appreciate it.
So we will cast a vote on behalf of the district for Mr. Davis for the 2026 term and for me for the 2028.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. And please don't hesitate to contact me.
Of course.
No problem.
Diane, thank you.
Forgive me if I mispronounce your name.
I'm used to it.
Okay, we'll move on to item number 5. California Special District Association CSDA Board of Director call for nominations for seat B, one candidate.
So a lot of seats open. So the board is able to nominate one person for the open seat for CSDA for seat B, which is a term from 2026 to 2028. The only restriction is they have to be affiliated with an independent special district that is a CSDA regular member, which we are. So the board can nominate one of its own to sit on that seat. Then once all the nominations are received, then they will send out a ballot, which will come back to the district. So if there's any interest from this board on sitting on that, the commitment and expectations is listed in the agenda material. The commitment and expectations are that you attend all board meetings, usually 4 to 5 meetings annually in Sacramento, at least one committee, or participate on at least one committee that meets 3 to 5 times a year. CSDA reimburses the directors for the related expenses and attend at minimum the following CSDA events, special districts, legislative days, and annual conference. They don't reimburse expenses for conferences, and that you need to complete all 4 modules of the district leadership academy within the 2 years of being elected. So I don't know if any of our current members are willing or interested in doing that. It does seem like a lot of work.
So just to clarify, that the meetings take place in Sacramento.
Yes.
The regular meetings take place in Sacramento. I'm not sure if the committee meetings are remote or in Sacramento. I don't know if the committee meetings are remote or in Sacramento as well.
You know what days and times these meetings occur?
I don't
Not
exactly.
every year with the calendar.
There would be plenty of notice if you were interested to be able to schedule it around, I believe.
4 meetings, and there's an annual meeting, so really 5 meetings per year,
Plus committee meetings.
plus committee meetings.
So you have 4 to 5 annual meetings, regular board meetings, 3 to 5 committee meetings, and then the legislative days and the annual conference, which both of those are a single day unless you attend additional training.
Bring it back when the train is operational.
So,
Just for clarification, right now to the Coastal Network, CP is Scott Duffield, the general manager of Heritage Ranch, and he was just elected for a seat that got open, and then he is running again.
okay. And so, yeah, just to clarify, so likely 5 meetings plus committee meetings, Sacramento. Don't know the dates and times. They reimburse for travel costs.
They reimburse for the expenses of attending meetings for the annual, or for the regular board meetings and for the committee meetings, but not for the legislative days or the annual conference.
Okay. I don't think my work schedule would permit 7 meetings.
I know mine will.
Yeah. Retired.
It's very busy.
I've got more to do now than I did when I was working.
Is there interest in anybody on the board serving in the CSD?
But does it have to be somebody from the board?
Yes.
It can't be a constituent?
Our board, like perhaps Naveed?
It could be, it could be the board or Kelly.
I see.
Oh, okay.
We could nominate Kelly.
The person has to live in the district.
Oh,
They just have to live in the district?
No, no, no.
They have to be a board member.
Board member.
Oh,
And live in the
Oh,
district.
okay.
Well, you have to be, well, live in the district and be a board member.
I mean, I would say that it's probably not practical for any of the current board members.
Yeah, I think Scott's only been on it too. Remember voting for him, Ellen? Network, Scott Duffield from Heritage Ranch. There was a seat open and he
Yeah.
voted like 4 months ago.
Yeah.
He's only been in it a little while. So it's like, have fun.
So, and that's fine if the board is not interested or none of the board members are interested.
I would say it's just not practical.
Go for it, Kelly.
Take public comment.
Do we have public comment on this item? We don't. Okay. We'll move on. Item 10.6, discussion regarding water and sewer services crossing parallel lines.
So this was requested to come back regarding a parcel at 1097 Mission Street, whereas the meter, or the service cross, or the customer side of the service crosses an adjacent parcel. The property owner believes that their water is being stolen by the neighbor. We weren't able to acquire any of the evidence that they supposedly have saying that. This item was brought back to determine what the board wants to do going forward. Previous direction from the board was to develop a policy regarding replacement of service lines. And the other decision and thing that needs to be ascertained is what funding is available to pay for this. Regular rate revenue can't legitimately pay for it from one parcel to another as a benefit that's basically given to one parcel over what's available to everybody else. So essentially, if we use rate revenue, then we have to open this up to anybody that wants to move their service, whether it needs to be replaced or not.
And you have to raise rates because it's not consistent with your current rate study or rate structure. So in order to fund it, right, you have to increase rates in order to fund it.
You have to raise rates in order to fund replacing a water meter?
So you would have to, because that's not part of our rate study, you would have to analyze what that cost is, and that may lead to an increased cost, especially if it was a broad program where anybody could apply for it, and then you have to basically facilitate that for anybody.
Okay, so this is a little bit different than that though. I was invited onto the property. There's 2 meters the water passed through to get to his home. There's the meter that's in the alley, and then there's the meter that feeds the house. And for some unknown reason, the district chose to replace this meter and not replace the one that's in front of his driveway. But there's a meter right there in the box that you told me where it was.
Right.
It's slightly to the left of where the trailer's parked, and there's a meter in there. I say, replace that meter with a smart meter, doesn't cost the district anything because we have them, and then charge the other homeowner whatever water goes through that doesn't get picked up on the other meter. Assign his property that meter, because then you'll know what's going on.
Can't legitimately do that.
Well, you can certainly knock on his door over it.
Well, so if you had 2 meters and one is at the house,
One's at the house and one's in the alley. The one in the alley crosses underneath the neighbor's yard
yeah.
to the meter that goes to the house.
So I would suggest, so if you have one that's in the house, it's reading the usage by that resident, presumably because it's at the home. No water can go anywhere else unless he's tapped off of another line and sent the water somewhere else. But by and large, it's for that building. If you have a secondary meter that's not on his property and it is leading to his property, if you did have a smart meter and there is a delta, meaning that the meter in the alley is reading a significantly higher water usage than the one that's at the home, it's been determined that there is water going somewhere else. Not like 1% difference. If it's a significant difference, there is water 100% going to another location. So at that point, what action do you take? I mean, it's clear that one resident is paying for water that they're not using.
That's his claim.
Right.
What I want to know is why the original meter was moved, not moved, was abandoned, left in place, and another meter put in its place on the opposing side of the neighbor's property. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Let me ask this. There's obviously a meter on the residence that resident A is claiming is taking the water, yes?
So there's 2 houses right next to each other. The meter for this house, their line crosses this front yard. This house, their meter is back here. This house, their meter is over here. Both of them are in the alley, which was the only main available when they were put in. So there's the meter in the alley, then it goes across the front yard, and there's the old meter. My assumption is that when they replaced, or they needed to replace the service because it was leaking or something in the alley, so they replaced it and put the meter in the alley. My assumption is just because it was easier to read in the alley instead of going in the yard. I don't know. I wasn't making decisions back then.
Well, we need to fix it.
Yeah.
We absolutely need to fix it.
So you can replace both. If you want to do what you guys are suggesting, you would have to replace both meters to make sure that they're both reasonably the same accuracy. Then you can say, okay, yes, there's more water going somewhere, but you can't guarantee 100% that it's not a leak and that line doesn't actually go anywhere else.
Well, that's not entirely true, because if you take a reading from the other property that is whatever, alleged using the water that the other first resident's paying for, so you have a meter read from residence A, the one that's saying he's paying for too much water. You have the meter in the alley, and you have the meter at the second residence. So if you have all 3 readings from 3 locations, if they don't add up, then yes, there's a leak. But if this guy's meter reads this much water, and the second meter in the alley reads way more water, and A and B equal C, then you know that the water's going to second residence.
Right, and if it's a leak, then you'd have to knock on then you just have to use district funds to bypass the whole thing to protect the leak, because the pipe doesn't belong to the homeowner, it belongs to us.
So,
No.
coming from a water standpoint,
What's that?
I would think, and actually I know, the water from the main to the meter is owned by the city. Everything past the meter is owned by the resident. So if there's a leak at the box or in front of the box, okay, that's something for the water guys to go check out. If it's leaking onto the property somewhere else, that's a responsibility of the homeowner. So I don't see why we would have to take funds from us to fix their problems.
So that
I don't understand.
Because, look, we,
I don't know where this is, so I'm trying to
that's
picture
fine,
in my
that's fine,
head.
we can draw a picture, but, I mean, it would be easier to see if we drew a picture, but, the district abandoned the meter in front of the gentleman's house.
Okay,
And moved it to the alley.
okay.
Wasn't a problem before, now it's a problem.
There might have been, I mean, has the same person lived in this home for?
No.
since-
If you want to know the background, the person that lives with the pipe under his yard, his mother owned that house, and they built that second house. So there was every opportunity to do anything you wanted back then. And that's all I'm gonna say about that.
So if there's a leak between the meter and the alley and either one of the residences, is that still on the district?
Anything from the meter on is.
From the meter in the alley to the main in the alley is our responsibility.
And all it's gonna cost us is to replace the existing meter that was abandoned. That's all it's costing us.
Well, if you're moving it to somewhere else.
No, we're not gonna move it. I'm not asking for movement, just replace the meter in the guy's driveway because there's an abandoned one there that's not being read. That's all we need to do is replace that
So
meter.
you're just,
We
not
can
you're
live-
not a service line, just meter, is that what you're asking? Or is that what you're talking about?
You're just replacing the meter.
Not the service line?
No, the service line belongs to the district and it runs under somebody's front yard.
Well,
That's not.
So I'm
That shouldn't be,
confused a little bit.
that shouldn't be the homeowner's responsibility.
So essentially,
Because we ran a pipe under somebody else's yard.
essentially the decision that you're basically getting at is to decide where the meter should be and who owns the line between the two meter locations. If you go with the hypothesis that the old meter is where it should be, then yes, the district would own from there all the way back to the main of the street. Sometime, basically when I started working here, they changed and put it in the alley. So if you look at it from a general history perspective, that was established and that's the way it's been for 17 or 18 years. And at the time, I presume that the homeowner was in agreement with doing that. So then that becomes the condition of the home. So when the homeowner bought it, the current homeowner bought it, they bought it in that condition. So, on that premise, our responsibility stops at the meter that's in the alley.
I don't agree with that.
Well, and that's fine. We just need to come to some sort of agreement of what is actually our responsibility.
Replace the abandoned meter is all I have to say.
Replace that meter and
And read it.
read it.
And forget about the rest.
Then you don't have to worry about the rest.
If you want to pursue it,
Yeah.
pursue it, but if you don't.
We're not,
But the only fair thing to do is to reestablish the abandoned meter that's on his property.
Yeah.
So that he owns what's on his property as it should be. And that you can,
put a new meter in, simple.
We have comment from,
Is that what the homeowner wants?
Well, we discussed this as a board extensively before, and what was being asked is replace the line across property, and it was discussed that we couldn't do that because we didn't own from the meter through the property. And if we have to do it for one, we have to do it for all 900 customers or whoever requests it in the future, times whatever it's gonna cost to do this. So that could be 900 times, what, Kelly?
Each one would be different.
Yes.
I don't have a problem with my meter.
Probably 3 to 5.
Whoever has a complaint.
well, that's 2 out of the 900.
We have to, well, that's what we discussed and that's what was decided at the time. And now we're going to it again, which I understand. I don't like it, I was for it, and then we had to change it because we discussed that we would have to do it for everybody to be equal. And so I think we were discussing at the time $3,000 to do whatever we had to do. I don't remember exactly what it was that we were doing on the property. And I was for that because I felt sorry for him that he was paying such a high water bill. But we gotta remember, that whatever we do for one, we have to do for all. So anybody in the future that has that same problem, and when I'm understanding the history of the city, we have that problem in many places.
Replace
Many
the meter.
places.
Thank you.
How about replace the meter? And if there's no difference between the two reads, pull the meter back out, put an LO in there.
So it's more of a diagnosis of whether there's,
Sure. Because if the one meter in the alley is reading higher use than what's going through the the old abandoned meter that is now new, then there's a problem in this person's front yard.
So normally,
And,
oh, sorry, I apologize, no.
no, that's, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's fine. I'm done.
So, the meter I take, Kelly, is an old meter, correct?
So there's a meter that's installed at the base of a retaining wall. And for whatever reason, I really wish they hadn't done this at this point, but for whatever reason, they left the meter there and installed a new meter approximately 25, 30 feet away at the other side of this neighbor's property. So it goes through the front yard to the alley. So there's a new meter in the alley with a new service to the main in the alley. So the question is whether or not the neighbor's sealing water between where the new meter is and where the old meter is.
Or there's a broken line.
Well, it goes to zero, so it's unlikely that it's a broken line.
It goes to zero.
Their use goes to zero on a regular basis. So it means that there's not a regular leak.
Oh, okay.
So either they're using it,
The dial's not spinning.
so they have a smart meter now, so we can tell that it's been at zero for
Okay.
great lengths of time.
So, okay, so there's no leak.
So it does not appear that there's a leak.
So just replace the meter. There's a box with a meter in it.
So my problem with the situation is that we need to have clear board direction on what we're doing because it's outside of my scope to do something different for one customer than I could do for another customer.
Yeah.
So if you guys want to do another meter and see what it's like, then that would be the least,
Does this require a motion?
yes.
yeah.
I'd like to make a motion to replace.
Sorry, hold on, we need a public comment. So you can make the motion, but we need a public comment.
Okay, no, that's, I'll wait.
At that same meeting where we discussed it at length, it was suggested that we make a policy from the board to cover this, so that Kelly has direction as to what he's supposed to do.
As, just to clarify, as Kelly and I were trying to work out this policy, it became unclear exactly what it was that was to be done for this property that would apply to all others. But then also, a bigger problem was the funding issue. Because this is a special district, everything is done with enterprise funds. There isn't a general fund.
Yeah.
So that means that everything has to be justified as being beneficial to all of the utility users, not one. So you can't charge all your other utility customers for doing something for one. And so that's why we brought it back, was to clarify what it is that we're doing here and to make sure that you understand the funding issue.
Yeah, I fully understand that. And here's my thought on it, okay? I wasn't on the board at the time that this was discussed. I did hear the complaint from the resident and discussion that took place. I'm, torn with this because again, it's something that has been done before any of us had responsibility for this, right? The financial aspect of it, putting that cost on all water users makes no sense. However, if we can validate the resident's claim by either changing meters or installing new, electronic read meters to ascertain where the water is going, and if there is a discrepancy, we can provide that information to the resident. And it's my suggestion that the resident would then take legal action against the other homeowner to, one, repay potentially over or stolen water, and or to correct the issue with the pipe. If it's going to the other resident, have the other resident pay to stop that line going to that other property. Because it would not fall on the district. and that other resident has control of their line, and if it's stealing water from another resident, well, why not put the burden on the people who are stealing the water? That's my thought. So, in the question is, in Director Green's suggestion, can we ascertain that there is a discrepancy by replacing the meters at little cost to the district?
Replace the one meter,
Yeah, just the one.
and if there's no discrepancy, yank it back out of there.
So I don't know how old the meter is we're reading right now, but they do degrade as they get older. So if we were going to do this, to have some sort of legitimate claim, they both need to be brand new and put in at the same time.
And you could put the old one up at my house.
We tried that, you made me take it out.
Well, you know, I went over and looked at that too, and I know a little bit about water. So, and the real simple way to do it, don't worry about the meter that's in the alley, just change the one in front of his house.
Is the meter in the alley an old meter?
He just explained that
That's a newer
put two new ones in at the same time so that they operate
not
exactly, they function exactly.
If you're going to use 2 meters to verify that you have a leak or have other use, you would need them to be the same accuracy. In which case, even if that one that's there is a year old, it's going to be less accurate than one right out of the box.
I'll put two new ones in, put one in the alley and one in his house. Simple as that.
What is the lifespan on those meters, Calvin?
So generally, they're warranted for accuracy for 15 years. Again, I don't know how old the one is that's in there, but
The one in the alley doesn't look that old. But I know you can't tell by looking, but I mean, it's, you know, I don't think it's been in there a terribly long time.
Okay, so,
you still need hope.
yeah, anyone else have any comment on this? Okay, we have public comment?
Yeah, I think I've been here at least 6 times talking about this water meter. The person sitting right over there, and you guys said, you guys at the board here, that they were gonna fix this.
Yeah, we did.
You should have a record of when that meter was put in. It should have a number on it. You should know how old it is. And just because you abandoned the old meter doesn't mean you abandoned the whole line. You have something in escrow when the guy got the house that says, that's his now, that he agreed to? That's your problem, where the original meter went to. It's not, oh, we give up. What if you had a fire hydrant? You give up that too? This is ridiculous. Let's move on.
Yeah, right, thank you.
Any other public comments? All right, so do we have some direction from the board?
I'd like to make a motion to give direction to staff to replace the water meter in the driveway at 1097 Mission, as well as in the alley that is being read currently for that address.
I second.
Can we broaden it for the purpose of diagnosis and,
You can.
and to bring back the results to the board?
Yes. To determine if there is a discrepancy.